Hey everyone, welcome to another office hours. This episode is going to be awesome. We are talking, well, man, we cover a lot of topics, but we're talking about how to find highest and best use for land, minor subdivide versus major subdivide, what the difference is, and what the process looks like. We're going to talk about moving dirt. We're going to talk about a gentleman has an excavating company. We're going to talk about that. That's awesome. We're going to talk about how to hone in and figure out what the highest and best use for a piece of land is. In other words, like, should you split it up? Should you divide it? Once you divide it, should you do the dirt work? Should you bring in city power? And like, where's that tipping point of profitability versus wasted time? And so we talk a lot about that. We also too talk about how to submit a deal. If you're interested in learning how to submit a deal, awesome. If you want to get your first deal as well, I'm rolling out a program. I don't want to call it program. Everyone kind of calls it programs, and that's kind of overrated. But essentially, I want to try and help you guys get deals. And so my goal is to essentially provide you the resources in order to be able to do that. And I think of it as like a step ladder. And you'll hear me kind of talk about the step ladder. But essentially, what that step ladder is it allows you to step into whatever rung you are. So if that's first starting out, I don't know how to cold call, or I don't know how to call or talk to a seller, all the way through, I need funding and I don't know how to do dispo, right? So that whole spectrum, and you can slot in wherever you need to. And you'll hear me talk a little bit more about that as we go. But that's kind of the newest thing that we're kind of rolling out and really getting ready to rock and roll with. So if you guys have any questions, please bring them to office hours. Otherwise, enjoy. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Hey, Sam. Here we
How
go.
are you?
Good, good, man.
Yeah,
Just yeah, new one in the docket for you.
there you go.
Yeah, a lot to
I
talk
love it.
about.
I love it. Awesome. Awesome. Do you have any questions off the gun here? Hey, Colby, good morning.
Good morning, guys. How
Um,
are you guys?
yeah, no, I think not really like a question per se. I was thinking the other day because I saw that I I just wanted to understand your process on underwriting land and what you do
Mhm.
and when we're feeding you deals, right? And then really the other question is kind of to go through this, if we had the time to go through this piece of land that
Mhm.
that I have right now and see, how can we underwrite what we can make out of it. Been kind of scratching my head to make sense of anything but yeah, would love to get your thoughts on it.
Sure. Absolutely. What do you want to tackle first? Do you want to tackle the comp of the piece of
Your
land, or do
call.
you
Your
want
call. I mean, I think the quicker one. If you can just go through your process, and what we're
Yeah.
looking for, what you do, and how we fit into your ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Colby, do you have any questions too today?
No, kind of the same thing is just kind of see how your process is. I've got, like I said, I'm an excavation side, so I know how to move the dirt and that. And then
Nice.
I want to get to the point where I can be able to find the land and buy it and flip it, or buy it and turn it into a development and do the horizontal side of things. So
Horizontal.
yeah.
Absolutely. Where are you located, Colby?
Northern Utah,
Northern Utah. Awesome. Is that where you do all your dirt work, I'm assuming?
as of right now, yeah.
Okay.
Northern Utah, southeastern Idaho, Wyoming,
Sweet.
east western Wyoming.
All right. I love it. I love it. Cool. So that's kind of a really cool, unique skill because that horizontal work oftentimes can be um, profitable and or needed. And so
Yep.
that's pretty awesome. We'll talk more about that, but let me get to Silvio's here first and also kind of your question as well. But okay, so this is my website, blueoxlandco.com. Um, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see
Hmm.
two different links here. It'll say my buy box and submit a deal. All right, we'll click on my buy box here. And here's the kind of more the criteria that I'm looking for. So it is kept a little bit vague because people's land comes in from all over the place. And once you once you learn how to comp, you can comp land wherever. It just really helps to have knowledge in a certain area, right? Because you have a better beat on it, right? Think of it like, if you understand, housing prices in general in the Midwest are cheaper than out in California, right? Like you have a general idea of it, but if you know specifically, oh, I live in the Midwest, right? So, oh, I know housing prices in and around the Twin Cities because that's where I live, right? So I understand the housing price around it. You just have a little bit better of an idea. But essentially, I'll take a look at pretty much any state in here. Um, and mainly looking for vacant rural land, mainly looking for over an acre, just because it tends to be more worth the time, right? So, if you flip a smaller acre or smaller, not acre, but smaller like infill lot, that can certainly be worthwhile, but I tend to target the larger parcels in there, and must have legal access. So right now, I don't really go after landlocked parcels per se. That's like a whole different subcategory of land if you want. So I want to have legal access currently, meaning that it has to have road frontage or recorded easement or a shared drive or some way, shape, or form to get to the property legally. All right. Here's a little bit more in depth. Here's a little bit more in depth of what I kind of look for. But this is all again, this is all on the website here. I don't want any HOA parcels really. That's not really super
Hmm.
helpful for me just because I don't have a big list of builders, like larger home builders. I do know a few, but in general, I just kind of stay away from HOA just because it's a little bit harder. Title can't clear, but some people know that, some people don't. So I'm happy to do that research too if you don't. Landlocked, some already locked up with another buyer, the daisy chain, chaos, not trying to get into that stuff as well.
Okay.
Um, and then house building, anything with structures. I mean, if there's a building or two, that's okay. If it's like a shed or a barn or something like that, that's okay. But preferably the raw vacant land is much more my style. Nationwide up to 1 acre, legal access, motivated seller in a story. If they want to do something, anything that's buildable, huntable, or recreational. And I say, a little hair is fine. Meaning, if it's a wooded lot, right? I might get somebody like Colby to come in here and like clear it out. That's totally fine. If it's steep, sometimes that can be something that we can work with. Because you can build some really cool houses on steep properties. It's just a matter of figuring that out. Um, Back taxes, some of the other stuff, I guess that some other people might necessarily pass on, but I'll definitely take a look at that. Um, if it looks good, you can keep scrolling down, then you can just click on submit a deal. And
Hmm.
then in submit a deal, a little quick mini buy box, if you will. And then here's your submitted deal form.
Okay.
All right. And so you put your name, your phone number, your email, because I want to make sure I can credit whoever sends it in. Right? I had somebody not put in their who put in the seller's name, which clearly you can see the seller's full name here, and then their email and phone number and all that. And so all I had was the seller's info, so I didn't know who to credit it to. So just at the beginning, make sure you put in your
Hmm.
own your own info in here, seller's name, your email, seller's phone number, and just a few other things that really kind of
Hmm.
help me just kind of get the story started, get the talk and
Yeah.
motivation for it, right? So what's the seller's story? Oh, I bought it 30 years ago and I decided we were going to build on it and then we didn't. Okay, cool. No problem. How soon do you want to sell it? Well, not in any hurry, but sometime within the next 6 months. Okay, cool. Motivation, their motivation here, they're retiring. They want
Hmm.
to take that money and go live on a boat in Florida. I don't know. I'm throwing it out there. And then anything else too about the parcel you guys have, right? So what this does it, and then any documents or whatever, if they send you, oh, check out this pretty picture of the land. I got this picture, blah, blah, and they might send you some stuff, or they might, depending on how far down the rabbit hole you go with them. So that's kind of the process behind it. And I'll put this in the chat here right away so you guys can check it out if you need to, or if you want to. I'd love to have you guys submit something. That'd be awesome to work with you guys. The other piece of it too is that I'm actually going to start, um, if you guys want to cold call, I'm going to be pulling lists here. And then if you guys are interested in cold calling, I am pulling up lists of properties that I know I would buy. So things that are 1+ acre. In this case, I believe it's in North Carolina was a list that I pulled. And so if you guys are interested in that, let me know as well. Happy to get you guys in on that. If that's your jam, awesome. If not, you guys can still keep pulling parcels and submit as you go. And the whole point of starting up these office hours is really to kind of help people no matter where they are in the ladder, right? Of getting their first deal, right? If they don't know where to start, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I got a list for cold calling, no problem. Like, let's do it.
Yeah.
If they're comfortable with they've done cold calls, they're comfortable talking to sellers, but they don't know how to negotiate a structure on it or the price or don't know how to comp it, I'll slot you in there, right? Negotiation. If you know how to negotiate and you got this contract, but you don't know how to sell it or whatever it may be, I can help you there. Or if there's funding issues and you don't know where, how to get funding, I'm happy to like help you guys there. So, throughout the whole like continuum of deal. Really, that's kind of the ultimate goal here. Does that kind of answer your question, Silvio?
Yes, absolutely,
Okay.
yes.
Sorry
And
if it was long-winded.
yeah, no, it's okay. So I think that I have my follow-up. I actually have like two separate follow-up questions. So
Yeah.
uh, the I'm gonna go with the first one. That's like just myself. So yeah, I would love to get into the ecosystem to kind of go through the process of raw land. um and like from zero. I've done it for houses, right, but not for raw land, right? So I think that the first thing I would know, that's one of the thoughts that I had is, I don't know where to start. Even if I want to go after parcels, and I think that we talked the other day is like, oh, let's look at path of progress, a map here, but man, it's an art, right? It's not
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
concrete science or anything. But so yeah, definitely would love to get started on that. And like I said, from the beginning, like cold calling, yes, I'm fine. I've done it for houses. I can go through whatever I can ask and understand what's the story and this and that. But yeah, beyond that is like, okay, what, how to structure, how to
Mhm.
find it, what kind of, it's like, okay, so now it's on the open. Uh,
Yeah.
and
Love
so
it.
the second question, I think, Sam, it's really, I think it's gonna serve the purpose for the two different goals, if I will, and that's on the timeline of the process. So, and I'll give you the context. So
Mhm.
for the piece of land that I have in mind, yeah, actually that I have with me, and I can tell you a little bit of the story. It would be good to understand the timeline so I can kind of take that to my friend. The second one is the timeline of the process, so it would be good on how long it would take for me to get my first deal.
Yes. So so you're wanting timeline for like an entire transaction or
So
like,
yeah, so let's like break it down. So how long would it take for me to do my first, like to have a first? Of course, it's not like exact again, but like on average, right? If I start cold calling, so based on your process, how long
Mhm.
usually does it take for you to close on a property or, pay or somebody or something?
Yeah. Yeah. Excuse me. So I'll break it down kind of even further, right? And to give you kind of like some timelines about what you can kind of expect, right? So as soon as you make first contact, in general, it's roughly probably, unless somebody's like super motivated, normally
Hmm.
it's a week to 2 weeks to get a contract, right? Now, that's if you find the right person, right? So you might need to call 100 people, and maybe that 100th person is the person who's it. Or you might
Hmm.
call 100 people, and that third person might be it, right? So in general, leads, like land doesn't move as quickly as houses per se, right?
Hmm.
Because land oftentimes is optional, right? Everyone needs a place to live, and so housing tends to get gobbled up a lot faster because
Yes.
people need a place to live, right? They need something
Yes.
over their head versus land is, oh, there's a piece of land out there, it'll be kind of nice to own, kind
Yeah.
of thing. That's also
Uh-huh.
why financing for it can become really challenging as well, right?
Okay.
So generally speaking, a week to 2 weeks to get a contract once somebody says and it like agrees, like, yes, I want to sell my price. Okay, your ballpark, we're close. And ballpark price, normally a couple weeks. Once you get your first contract, then due diligence and everything else starts, right? And normally, depending on what type of contract you have, right? So if you do a cash contract, it can be a really quick cycle to buy the property, right? And then you have the dispo, and we'll talk about that in a minute, right?
Mm.
Or you do an assignable contract, and that in that assignable contract, right, you'll have ideally 90 days due diligence.
Mm.
What you're trying to do is you're going to do all the back end work of the contract, meaning
Mm.
you're going to look at slope and soils and all sorts of other things, which I know sounds daunting. It's not as daunting as
No,
it
it's not.
sounds.
I'm a civil engineer. I'm all
Okay.
good.
All right, great, great, great. You love that stuff. You love nerding out on that stuff. That's great. So then you have that. Ideally, then you have about 90 days due diligence in there and a 30-day close. And within there, you're going to start marketing that property. I tend to market as aggressively as I can, right? So I want to market at an aggressive price point, but also to make sure that I'm getting out on all the channels, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
then you're looking at trying to find a buyer, right? So once a buyer comes in, normally then they have a 30-day due diligence period as well that they'll kind of look at. And so ideally you have a contract, you get somebody within the first 30 days, they have their 30 days, and then you can close in 60. Now
Okay.
that's the most ideal scenario.
Of course.
Let
Okay.
me tell you what actually happens.
Okay.
And Colby's laughing.
Like
Yeah,
four
Uh,
yeah,
months.
yeah. So what actually happens is normally that ideal seller comes in on day 88 when you're about to cancel the contract. And then they say, hey, I want 30 days due diligence. You're like, okay, how serious are you? Are you actually serious about this? Right. And
That
then you got to make a judgment call as to whether you're going to
and that's exactly now just like switching topics. What
yeah.
my friend has been through. Exactly that. Because he's the
Mhm.
seller on that. And he's done a ton of due diligence up front, right? Just
Yep.
in order to sell that the piece of land.
Yep.
Um, but that's exactly what happened. Some, I don't know, like the guy came and he was like, oh, I need this, this many days to go through the due diligence. Oh, I need this reduction and I did this and
Hmm.
I need that.
Hmm.
And then I think it was like 2 days or 3 days, whatever. It was like, ah, no, it's not gonna go, I'm backing out. And then he comes back again after God knows how many months. And here we are. It's like I've been talking with him about this piece of land, I think like I don't know, like for 2 years now. And he has been trying to sell it. Um, yeah, whatever. And to
Yeah.
the point that he was like, dude, I don't know. I think that I'm gonna build myself. I was like, man. And I've
Yeah.
been trying to plug the numbers for building. And I had to ask AI, I was like, hey, I mean, so from what you're telling me, all builders in Florida right now, they're losing money. And then they're like, oh no, I think yeah, I think that I screwed up. So let me geez.
Yeah, it's one of those too where it's like that can certainly happen, right? And my goal too, right, to kind of help speed that up that process, right? So
Uh-huh.
then buyers say, "Oh, well, I need 30 days due diligence, XYZ," right? Like my goal is really to like, here's everything you would ever possibly want to know about due diligence on a
Yes.
platter for you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, no,
And
absolutely.
so as soon as I get one under contract, I am starting building my due diligence folder of all my documents and everything in there. And
Okay.
then whenever somebody's interested, I just, here's the link to the Dropbox folder. Here's the link, right? And and you're pulling everything. And so it has, soil maps. It has
Oh yeah.
whatever it may be, right? It
Yeah.
has screenshots of maps and areas and parcels and has drone photos and on foot photos and topographical maps, plat maps from the county, right? Like everything and anything that like somebody would want to look out about it, right? The title sometimes, if they're getting serious, right? I'll give them the title, right? I'll give them a preliminary title report if it's, which is totally
Yeah.
public knowledge, right? You can go up to any county and ask for a title report.
Hmm.
Um, and so I will give them literally everything to the point where it's like, hey, all you have to do is comb through these documents and then
Yeah.
figure out if that's something that you want or don't want.
Okay.
And some buyers get really overwhelmed by that and like drop out. And then there are other buyers who are like, this is amazing. I
Yeah.
wish that, I would have done that. I wish, you would have sold me your other five parcels that I have, like, because the easier you make it, and also too,
Mm.
the easier you make it for like an agent or someone else like that, um, if you can have, pre-written contracts written up and stuff like that, right? Where, all you have to do is plug in the person's name and their price
Hmm.
point and the price that they want, right? Like I just try and eliminate any and all hurdles when it comes to the disposition side.
Hmm.
And then just having like a solid process and here's where I need to list it in all these different places, right?
Okay.
And just trying to hit as many people as I can.
Okay.
So yeah, but hopefully that helps though. Like the due diligence on a platter is really like the best thing that you can possibly do that most people don't do.
Okay.
They just kind of list it on the MLS or just kind of blast it out on Facebook
Yeah.
and then hope
Yeah.
and pray it sells.
Yeah. No, yeah. They did a good amount of due diligence before putting it on the market, right?
Yeah.
But even still. Okay, cool. All right, sounds good. Yeah, I'll check with him what's the current status. I think that is still in the market. I'm not sure. Um, but I'll check with him about any kind of contract, see where he's at, and then I might send that your way. So
Sure.
you can take a look
Yeah.
and there is anything else that can be done.
Yeah, absolutely. Always happy too to take a second look and like eyes and stuff like that. There's so many
Yeah.
different pieces of land out there. I'm never going to steal a piece from anyone. It's more, there might be a piece. If you bring it up, Silvio, and I'll be like, man, Silvio, this looks really good. Like, I'd be happy to partner on this if you want to partner on it. If not, like, go take it down yourself and like go get it kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, that's more kind of my thought process is
Awesome.
that there's so
Yeah.
many
Yeah, no,
land
I
deals.
just my thought process is not even like concerned about that. Yeah, I'm pretty good with that. It's more like following the checklist, right? The
Yeah.
criteria is like if he's working with someone right now, it's under contract because someone, it's just
Yeah.
not checking that box. So that's all I'm gonna check.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. 100%. Oh, and that also too, that actually like if you find a parcel and it's like hits five out of the seven check boxes in my buy box, still send it over.
Okay.
Still send it
Okay.
over.
Oh
It
yeah.
doesn't
So
have to
then,
literally hit every single checkbox in
okay.
order for me to be like, I'll take a look at it. I'll always take a look at parcels and properties, but the more checkboxes it has, the more likely it is to like, yeah,
Yeah,
let's
no,
do it.
absolutely.
You
Yeah,
know, kind
like
of
like I
thing.
said, this one it only doesn't check the under contract, and it's not 100% sure. It's just I don't know. I'm not that close to the process to tell
Yeah,
you if he is or not, right, on the contract.
love it.
But yeah, yeah, after call I can just submit the form or, during the
Good.
call. Yeah, I'll send you everything. I have all the information.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, Silvio.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Awesome. Any other questions?
I
And
think
I know we had a whole bunch and we kind of strayed a little bit and kind of wound our way back, but any other questions around that?
Well, I was just like, you say your sweet spot is like 10 to 80 acres. What do you find like, what do you find the the spot that like the layout of what most people like to buy? Because for
Yeah.
me, I know on the development side, people like the flatter ground because then there's not much dirt to move. There's not cut and fills, retaining walls, things like that. But obviously,
Mhm.
with each of those things come with higher price tag, higher selling of lots, and things like that. And so, what do you find the majority of people like to find or to buy?
Ooh, man, this is such a good question. I don't think you understand how good of a question this is because this you can dive into like so many different rabbit holes on this.
Oh,
Um,
I realized there's so many rabbit holes that you can go down
yeah.
on any of this because everything is different. And that's where I look at things a little differently because I do the dirt side. And so that's like, okay, can how can I streamline something better for the end buyer, which is essentially the homeowner, but still make money for me, the buyer, the developer of the land, and
hmm
whoever that might be, and
hmm
stuff, because that's essentially what we're all here to do is help each other make money.
hmm Yep. And that's end game, right? You know, you can do all the dirt
Right.
work in the world, but if you can't sell to a developer, it's worthless, right?
Exactly.
And so, so you want to try and figure out like where's that tipping point for you, right? Where is that tipping point for overinvestment versus underinvestment, right? Like,
Right.
okay, if I clear trees and, then sell it, okay, minimal work on your end, but also too, man, if you would have cleared trees and just graded that out into like two home sites, you would have made double the money, right? And so is that you're trying to figure out like where that balance is?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So
As far as based on your experience and with buyers.
yeah. So it is going to be very like hyper local specific,
Yep.
right? Because what somebody wants in northern Utah out in the mountains, I'm assuming you're in mountainous area.
Yep.
Lucky guess because you keep talking about slope a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm
yeah,
used to it.
yeah. No, 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 which is great, right? Because
Yeah.
then you have the opposite end of the spectrum, which is I have a subdivide in Indiana that's a farm field,
Correct.
right? So you have total opposite ends of the spectrum, really sloped and out in the mountains and like an agricultural field that's essentially getting turned into home sites
Correct.
because everything in the area is turning into home sites, right? So I'll give you an example of my Indiana parcel and then I'll see if we can kind of apply it to Utah and apply like those same principles to Utah. So when I went and looked at this Indiana parcel and I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, there's a bunch of subdivisions that have, like your little small, like, you know, cookie cutter lots on them.
Yep.
And so I'm going, okay, yes, you can make the most for your money off of that, right? Because you have, so many lots, right? That's also a full entitlement play, right? Meaning that, you put in a driveway or like a little cul-de-sac, and then you put
Mhm.
all your lots all around it, right?
Yep.
Which is a lot more work, right? And so I'm like, okay, well, I want to do a minor subdivide. Would this property, I don't want to mess with an entitlement on this. So I talked with my buddy yesterday, and he's trying to talk me into doing an entitlement now on it. But um, but I want to do a minor subdivide on this. Can I, or how can I make this work? Right? And so it's 30 acres, and I'm putting it into five different parcels. Okay. And so when I start looking at that, I'm going, actually, here, let me pull. I think I have let me get a screenshot here of it.
So you said you're doing 5 acre lots.
I'll show you because this will be it's much easier for me to point it out, and I think it will be helpful for you because then you can see exactly what I'm going at. Here we go. All right.
Because like we've got some flat areas out here in the area that I'm at, and it's crazy because you've got like flat areas that a quarter acre lot goes for $120,000, and then
Yes.
when you get up onto the hillside where there's a development going, that you're moving 500,000 cubic yards of material to cut and fill and build lots and all that. That then
Yep.
those lots are turning around and going for 200 to $300,000 a lot, and
Yep.
so that's the part where. But those are two very specific and buyers too. So
Hmm.
it's like
Those are different
like
people.
finding that sweet spot.
Right. So, of course, this kind of cuts off, but you guys can kind of see how there's the little green boxes here. So these are all houses up here, right? So you can see how small those lots are compared to this 5 acre lot portion right here, right? So, and there's a bunch of houses down here as well, the big old subdivision, and another subdivision here, a farm field here, a little cemetery, and then and then a bunch more out here on the side, another subdivision. And so you're exactly right, Kobe. When you start looking at, okay, what's the best bang for the buck, right? So I could have put a driveway up here and then done a little cul-de-sac here and went
Mhm.
one, two, three, four, five, and then gotten like 20 lots out of here, right? And so when I do analysis on that, right? Now, I didn't want to do the entitlement play, but when you're looking deeper in, like what you're looking at, Kobe, like when you're looking at the
Mhm.
entitlement play, you'd have to start going, okay, if I do these lots, right? So if I do these five lots and I want to do versus doing like a 20 lot like split, right?
Yeah,
What's my cost? What's my exit, right? And also most importantly, what does the county want and or allow, right?
correct.
Because that is ultimately because all the plan you can have the best laid plan in the world and the county says no, we won't do that. You're like,
Yep.
okay. The county said we will do either of these in my case, right? They said, well, if you put a cul-de-sac up through here, you can get 20 lots, and we'd approve that. And I said, okay, well, what about this and through here? Because I'm not sure, I'm not an entitlement expert. I have friends who are entitlement experts. And so I'm like, I don't know about that. I was thinking kind of minor subdivide. Would you approve something like this? And they said, yes. And I said, okay, great. Now, my next step is, okay, how many of these lots in this area are selling, right? And to whom are they selling to? Are they selling to a developer who's putting on, homes onto these sites and maybe they're luxury or bigger homes, or are they putting on little small like mobile home parks, right? Or like little mobile homes or manufactured homes. So I'm looking at end buyers, what's moving in the county currently, right? They just did, there's two other subdivides within 3 miles that did 40 acre and they split it four ways into 10 acres, 10-acre parcels. And those sold all at a pretty high price point within about 9 months. They sold all four of them, and those were going for about 18,000 per acre. I have this under contract for a little bit under four or a little bit over 14,000 per acre. And when I start breaking down the price point, right, in terms of like price per money spent, right? So I need
Mhm.
soil tests and they're going to soil test each lot. They're going to survey each lot. And then beyond that, then it's just administrative approval and going up to a county and telling them what I want to do with it and done, right? So pretty minimal. I'll be into it probably anywhere from ten to $12,000 when it's all said and done. And I'll take it from $14,100 per acre purchase price all the way up to as high as 25,000 per acre via doing the subdivide. If I went and put them into smaller lots like this, I imagine that I'd probably get, I think it's probably like 28, 29,000 per acre. So
Mhm.
yes, you are getting a little bit more in there, but also
Also
too,
doing a
I
lot
probably
more.
have to put in almost $100,000 worth of work. And so for me, it kind of gobbles up a lot of that profit, that like that excess profit margin. And it almost makes more sense to do something like this in the bigger lots. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. And
So-
that's the part that trying to figure out, there is a what 11 acres that I'm looking at here in my town that is already surrounded and stuff, and I wanted to reach out to see what the story was behind that, because trying to figure out what could do with that, because there's single family homes, there's multi-family homes there, and so it
Mhm.
really the ability to go either direction,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
being able to figure out how to structure it the way that it makes it appealing to the buyer.
Right. So and that's exactly like you're going about it the exact right way. The exact way I would go about it is like, okay, how can you do this, right? If I was you, right, and I lived close to this, 100% I'd do the full entitlement. 100%. Because I can do the dirt work and all of a sudden that 100 grand now costs me 30 grand, right?
Yeah.
Because like to have somebody grade it, to have somebody dig a trench, to have somebody, pull the electric and sewer from the highway here and bring that in, right? Like th those costs will still be there, but like I don't like you can dig, you can grade the land, you can level, you can take out some trees and work around drainage ditches and like you can do a lot of that stuff, which takes up a majority of this cost in this particular like example, right? Where
Right.
you can take and build that driveway. You can do a lot of that horizontal work and grade the lots. And if you need mound systems because it doesn't perk, right? So
Yep.
if soils aren't draining well enough, you can actually you build what's called mound systems, and that essentially gives you a layer so the house isn't going to flood. So like that's another really, really cool insurance policy that like you can do is that you can create those mound systems if you need to.
Yep.
Which for me, like if I need to create mound systems, the deal's dead.
Right. That it costs a lot of money to move dirt.
Yes, it does. It costs a lot,
So
especially when you're hiring it out. Believe me, it costs a lot of money to move some dirt. I'm
yes,
unfortunately all too familiar with
and
it.
so that's the part that, like, for me, I'm trying to find someone that either partner with things like that to be able to go, hey, you know what? We've got this land, come in and do the development, figuring out, okay, what is the best way to set up a lot to be able to then present a plan to the city to do that in full entitlement,
Mhm.
and what those numbers might look like to be able to kind of run through. Like, that's the part that I'm trying to learn is how can I take a piece of property, figure out, okay, if I do multifamily, how the best way to set it up to maximize the ability to make money on the back end. Because most of the time, for me, I'm probably going to buy and do the full entitlement, the full infrastructure
Sure.
when it's local and around me. Out, if I look and find property like you out across the country, I'm going to do that exact same thing you're doing because that makes sense.
Hmm.
But being able to figure out that process and how to lay it out is a big part of it, I think.
Welcome to the game of entitlement and development, my guy. That's
Yep.
that's the art and skill right there is what you're asking for. And that honestly, I think that is a lot of change, seeing it, doing it, getting rejected, and then figuring out alternative plans and kind of going about it that way. I would say, I mean, I'm definitely interested in entitlements. I would have loved to potentially do one here. I just don't know enough currently about it to do that. And of
Yeah.
course, then I talked to my buddy yesterday and he was like, dude, I would have done it with you. Like, is it too late? And I'm like, man, you're killing me. I needed to talk to you like a month
Yeah.
ago when we got under contract or when I was negotiating that to try and figure all this out. Um, but yeah, I guess bottom line is either find somebody who does entitlements. I'd be happy to partner on one if you're interested and or look things over. I love to learn. That's why I also too post these
Same.
office hours is because I love learning about this stuff. And inevitably I'm gonna learn just as much as you guys are learning. And so I'm definitely game also too to partner with somebody. I have a few different people who are in the entitlement game. One gentleman does most of his work up in Idaho, so not too
Mhm.
far from you. Um, but yeah, and he knows how to like that's his whole thing is that he's more I want he's not a capital raiser, but once you get into entitlements, you have to be a capital raiser. You have to be able to raise money for these a lot of these projects because they're expensive or can
Yep.
be. But if obviously if you know the dirt, maybe a little bit less expensive, right? But
Right.
that's exactly what he does though, is that is his specialty is seeing a piece of land, looking around it, seeing what's there doing the research behind it and then figuring out what's greatest and best use for it. Hey, how can we lay this out to be the best? Right?
Right.
And I'm sure, I just sent him over all my stuff for this subdivide and I'm like, "Hey, can you analyze this and then teach me how you look at it?" Right? And because I'm literally asking the exact same thing you are, right? But I'm
Mhm.
just giving him a very specific example of it. And so I'm going, "Okay, how can I like, can you teach me how you look at these things and how you look at best case scenario and like how do you go about that?" Because that's really his game is that he takes large parcels, much larger than this 30 acres, and then essentially does full entitlement projects into them, raises capital and has a fund around them, and then exits. So then
Right.
when he goes up to the county, right, he's done all of his research. Hey, I
Right.
saw that you approved this and this project, but then you denied this and this project, right? If we're looking at, these are what's common in the things that you approved, and this is what's common in things that you didn't approve. Has anything changed since then? What are you looking for? What are you trying to get out of, like in your county, right? Do you want density or do you want more sparse open areas, right? Like, what
Right.
are you looking for? And then once he figures out exactly what they're looking for and sees any sort of trend or pattern, which now he uses AI for, he's like, oh, AI has like been amazing to help me spot all that stuff versus before he just used to manually do it. Um,
Right.
and once he does that, then he draws up a plan of what he thinks would be greatest and best use, depending based on what has already been approved and then tries to dodge as much things that have been denied, but also to balancing that with the mix of profitability as well, right? And like making sure that things actually work out, right? Like a plan is awesome, right? Like, I could go in here and do a, 20 parcel spread. However, you know, I might have to put in double or triple the money, and I also might only get out like $25,000 more, right?
Yeah,
So like,
exactly.
is the juice worth the squeeze? And that's where he runs all those models to try and figure out, hey, I know how much this is, I know how much this is, I know how much this is. And he just essentially runs the math backwards and makes sure and sees if that does truly work. But yeah.
Yeah.
So like I guess that also too kind of answers your question a little bit in the sense that, when you start looking at like what makes the most sense, you have to model it out. And also too, like going back and doing the county research about what has been approved and what hasn't been approved can be super beneficial because then you're walking into that county meeting or you're on the phone with the county and now all of a sudden you're sounding, I won't say more intelligent, but you're sounding elevated in the sense that, hey, Colby, I know, in the past it looks like, you guys approved this project and this project on this street and that street. And, but then it also looks like, you denied a multifamily over on this side of town. Is there any reason for that? Or like, what's your guys' plan on this side of town here where, you denied that multifamily? Do you want more density or are you looking more for more like green space?
Yeah.
I mean, how much better does that sound versus like, hey, so why won't you allow me to do multifamily over here? Why can't I do that?
Exactly.
Right? Like those
Exactly.
questions are totally different. You're gonna get totally different responses on them.
Yep. Makes
So
sense.
yeah. So that's kind of where I look at it as like when you start looking at the best use for land, really try and focus in on what they have done and what they haven't done and what the county needs and or wants because that's your best shot at getting approval and then run your numbers based off of that to try and see if they'll essentially take that.
Right.
Yeah. And dude, you have a superpower, man, of being able to move dirt. Like your costs can be significantly lower where you can go in and
Yeah.
develop something that other people would have to pass on 10 out of 10 times.
Well, and that's the part why I wanted to, because I've got like the competition is excavation companies here are bidding things so cheap that it's like I don't know how, like, I know what costs are,
Yeah.
and they are, the cost to do the job is what material cost is.
Yep.
And so it's, and then there's so many people bidding on jobs that I'm like, okay, how can I create my own workflow for my one business without turning and bidding things so cheap that one wrong thing, you're done.
Breaks. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's the classic race to the bottom, right? Who can be the cheapest, who can do it with the thinnest margin, right?
yep,
And so, yeah, I think you're super smart for finding a differentiator, right? Like how can you differentiate yourself from those? And how also too can you give your company a little bit more safety as well, in the sense that like, hey, okay, in order to compete around here, we have to go thinner margins than what we want. However, if we know we can risk more on those thinner margins if we know that we're going to have this play that is super safe and that we're going to be able to do right and
right,
that's going to I don't want to say for sure float the company because that's really risky talk when you start talking about that,
yeah,
but you want to run on your normal margins as best you can. If you have to thin them out, this is a nice buffer to kind of backfill some of those in order to get
correct,
some of those in order to improve profit margin. So, yeah, good
yeah.
business.
But yeah, I'd be open to, I like I said, I'm open to finding and that, and if it's something that you or someone that would be interested in doing things, like I said, I've been watching this land, this 11 acres for a while, and it's just there's nothing going with it. So it's like I want to try and find what the story is, figure out what their goal is, and if I can be able to match that or
Yeah.
make that happen, obviously, then great. that I might have something that people want to jump in on, I'd be more than happy to do because, like you said, I don't know how to do entitlements, but if there's someone that you know that get in
Mhm.
contact with that can teach that, then that's the part where it's like, sweet, let's do it.
Right. 100%. And that's why, like I was like, oh man, like I didn't realize, I knew he was doing entitlements, right? And he was so pumped when I told him about this subdivide. He's like, dude, like, okay, great. Like now, like you're in it. Now it's time for entitlements. And I'm like, I'm like, oh my God, okay. All right. I guess we're gonna try one. Like, let's go.
Yeah,
But yeah, so I mean, I'm like, he's like, he's like, I'd love to help you and love to, walk you through one if that's of interest to you and X, Y, and Z.
okay,
So yeah, I mean, if you find something, Colby, or you have any questions about that, like, I mean, let's both learn and earn. You know what I mean? Like,
perfect. I like it.
I would love to learn that process as well. And those parcels are fewer and far between that work out well, right? And even if that 11 acres doesn't work out, okay, now we at least know why, right? Like we at least know why it doesn't work out. And now we
Right.
have more knowledge as to how to like backfill into them, right? Like finding subdivides is much different. Like finding subdivides on market is much different than going direct to seller and doing wholesale flips.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It is way different, right?
Right.
And unless you know what you're looking for, it can be more challenging, right? Once you start narrowing that down and running the math a few times and doing those analysis, which the first ones are insanely time consuming, right? But once you figure that out, right, it's you can get a skill for it, right? I'm sure it's like, if I don't know what type of excavation you do. Do you dig trenches?
Right. Like it's the same thing. You get a
Yeah.
new operator, they can dig a fairly simple trench, but then you get an experienced operator and they can do 4 times as much in
Exactly.
the same
Just
amount of
because that
time.
skill
So
and that
it's just
repetition and
finding that system that you can just kind of you get a better flow.
right.
So
Exactly. Like you don't want me to dig your trench, probably, because I would cost your company so much money because I would be so slow. I would be like a kid in a sandbox, so I'd be so happy. I'd be like a pig in mud. I'd be so happy to use that type of stuff. But also too, in terms of like time effectiveness, that's all you, right? Vice versa, my background is physical therapy, right? If you want something, if your shoulder's hurting, you know, you're probably not the right person to do it. I probably
yeah,
am, right? Like it's just different jobs, different things, and you can become more efficient at it. And I think when you start, the best way and only way you have to do it is to just dive in and just try it, right?
yep,
I looked
yep,
at probably, I don't know, maybe 10 subdivides before I found that one, right? Like running the numbers through 10 different ones. And then once I did find that one, I actually reran the numbers like 5 times. Am I actually finding one that actually works right now? And then I went and tried to look at some more and making sure that my skills were honed in, had somebody who's done multiple subdivides then come in and look at it and say, hey, second pair of eyes, right? Hey, am I seeing this right? Am I like this looks good? Am I on the right path here? Like, here's all my analysis. And they're like, yeah, you're spot on. It's like that looks like a good one. I'm like, oh, sweet. Okay, great. And same with the entitlement process is just running through the reps. But
okay.
yeah, man, you got
Well,
a
I appreciate
superpower in
the
being able to move the dirt, dude. Like you need to exploit that as much as you can.
yeah. That's the theory. So
That's the theory. I love it. Where in Utah are you?
northern Utah. So I'm literally
Help
like
me
up
out.
in Logan, Utah State University.
Okay.
We're like 20 minutes from the Idaho border.
Yeah. Nice.
So,
Awesome. Just looking up and
like
looking.
I said,
Okay.
we do southeast Idaho. We'll go all of, yeah, southeast Idaho, South Idaho. Um,
You go all the way up to like
I mean,
Pocatello?
yep. So we'll go all the way up to Island Park. So I've got a buddy that has some cabins up in Island Park that we've looked at, and we've actually gone up there to dig cabins and stuff. So I've
Nice.
got guys that aren't afraid to travel a little bit. So
Sure. Great.
anyway,
Awesome, man. Well, that's really good. You got a really broad area there where you can work and obviously lots of slope and mountains in there.
yep.
But no, that's good. That gives me a better idea. And also too, I mean, like I said, when you find something, let me know. Like let's underwrite
Okay.
it together and check it out and see if we can figure out what the highest and best use is for it.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate the answers and the insight.
Yeah. Hopefully that helps you at least take the next step for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, it does. So
Awesome.
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Well, Jeff, good morning. Thanks for joining.
Sure thing. I have a question on what you were just talking about
Uh-huh.
with the subdivides. When does it actually move to an entitlement? Like, when do you have to do an entitlement? At what
Mm.
point?
Yes, great question. So every county will have different rules for entitlement or for what's called a minor subdivide and then what they'll call a major subdivide, aka an entitlement. And so um, in my case, in that lot in Indiana, they allow a 5-to-1 split, meaning that you can split one piece of land into five different parcels, right? So without becoming an entitlement project, right? So if I did 6 parcels, it would now need to be an entitlement, and it's a different process that goes through it. And that's kind of what Colby and I were talking about, is that like once you get to a certain number, right? Like 6 would absolutely not financially make sense because you can do 5 and have a third or like a tenth of the cost, right? Because all I have to do is pay for soil tests and surveyors for this, right? And then a few like document fees and stuff like that. So when we start looking at that, that's cost effective. Then once you get above 5, right? 5 to infinity, right? You have what's called the entitlement process, and that would be like a driveway, and then you have to put in driveway, you have to do dirt work, you have to pull in utilities on that road, right? So electric, sewer, whatever it may be, you have to pull that in off that main drag. And so there are much more costs associated with that, and it's a different process too. So when I'll give you like examples of this one because I'm clearly in the middle of working on it. So if I go a minor subdivide and I do 5 parcels or less, there's no public hearing. There is a committee. There's 2 committees though that I have to make it like get approved through, which
Mhm.
I already have talked to them and said, hey, what are my chances of getting this approved? What do you guys need? What are you guys looking for? That kind of thing. So I have committees I need to go through, and that's it. So I have 2 committees that I just have to present the plans to and say, yep, here's a minor subdivide. Here's what I want to do. This is why I want to do it. I want to provide these lots for housing. It's not going to be super dense housing. However, it's going to be some nice people to build some nice homes on it. And they say, okay, great, sounds good, done, right? Versus if I go and I do an entitlement, I have those 2 committees that I have to go through. I also too have a public hearing that I have to go through in this case in the city of in Newton County. And that is where all these neighbors around here can come in and voice their opinions and tell me, no, get out of town. We don't want you here, or whatever it may be. Or they might say, yeah, we'd love another neighborhood here, right? So you're kind of, I want to say you're rolling the dice, but it's a lot.
It could be good, could be bad.
Yeah, it could be really good, it could be really bad, right? And also, too, the other piece of it, too, is, and I stressed this with Colby, was if you like, that's why it's so important to know what your what your county wants. Because if your county wants housing density and all the neighbors don't want it, well, guess what? The county still might push it through, right? So you might be able to do it anyways, right? So that's why, and so the public hearing piece, the people can be swayed, right? Or they cannot be swayed, right? And so you have certain opinions that you just kind of have to filter through. And that's kind of the risk in the politics behind like land development, if you will.
Hmm.
Um, and also to the higher costs. So the biggest difference between like a minor subdivide and doing 5 parcels is that I just have to go to what's called a planning committee and a TAC committee, which think of it as like a town council kind of committee in the minor subdivide. And then my costs are a surveyor and soil scientist versus you go on the opposite end of the spectrum, you go entitlement. You have those two committees, planning and TAC committee, you have a public hearing for the county and whoever can show up and state their case. All right. You have much, probably 5 to 10 times more cost depending on what you're going for, right? Even the surveyor alone, right? My surveyor will be roughly $7,000 to survey this 5 parcels. If I wanted them to do that for 20 parcels, it would probably be closer to like 25 grand.
Oh wow. Okay.
So your costs just go higher. Now, you also might be able to take it from $20,000 per acre retail price, like with this, right? Or retail is probably closer to like 25 an acre, but say it's 20,000 an acre is what you actually sell it for, right? If you go 20,000 per acre on here, and then you go and you entitle it, right? That might now be worth 40,000 per acre, right? So your costs can significant because a developer can make a heck of a lot more money on those, right? Because now they have 20 opportunities to make money instead of 5.
Hmm.
So it's a risk reward game for sure. Um, I think maybe you've heard me say home runs and strikeouts, right? In terms of like entitlements. Um, because you can strike out because the council strikes you down or whatever that may be, and this the public hearing strikes you down, or everything moves through and you're able to sell it for what you need to sell it for, and you hit a home run, right? And you make $1 million. So it can be challenging, and so it's just different processes between minor subdivide and major subdivide slash entitlement. Just very different processes. Public hearing is normally the biggest differentiator and cost. So the cost that you're going to put into the land.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. I have one other question about markets, if you're
Yeah.
open for it.
Yeah. Fire away.
So I'm based in southern Utah, and there's so much opportunity here. But when I look on like Land Insights, shows that the sell-through rates, absorption, all of that it doesn't align with Utah.
Yeah.
If you were actually to live in Utah and to work here, or would you not even would you not even approach that market or work in this space just because the data doesn't align with it? Or is there a more creative play that I could do?
So I'm trying to think of like how I can like best answer this because some markets
Okay.
can be
Sorry, that's
no, because some markets can be really tricky, and here's why.
yeah.
When you go on Land Insights, they pull from the ML or they pull from Zillow, right? And I
Hmm.
don't think they pull from the MLS. So the challenge, and also too, like sometimes like houses don't go through the MLS or land doesn't go through the MLS, right? Because it's a private sale.
Yeah.
It never actually hits the market, and so it never hits MLS, right? I'll give you a great example. The house that I'm living in, right? It's in an area in Minnesota where more houses sell off market than on market.
Oh wow.
So our sell-through rate would look like absolute because it looks like no houses sell here because the only ones that make it to the market are oftentimes the ones
Oh,
that are
okay.
insanely overpriced or need insane amount of like need a total gut job and they think that their house is worth way more than what it's worth, right? So, like when we bought this house, our mortgage company had a really hard time pulling comps because more of the houses go off market than on market. And the mortgage company only pulls from what comes on market. Well, our realtor can pull comps from what is taken off market as well, right? Because they can go in the back end and see what's recorded
Hmm.
in the state of Minnesota and give you the comps via those. Well, the mortgage company wouldn't recognize that, right? And so we ended up having to come more money out of pocket in order to make up the difference of the value of our house, even though the market dictates that this house had three offers within 24 hours.
Oh, wow.
So like you know what I mean? So like my
Yeah.
point being is that you can have areas where it shows terrible sell-through rates because our area does not show good sell-through rates. And you ask any agent, they're like, "Oh yeah, I'll take your listing any day, all day long, please, please, please," because they know it will go like that. So when you start looking at land in southern Utah, right? Public
Hmm.
knowledge is super, super helpful, right? I know that houses in my area are really like go insanely fast and that we could sell it within 24 hours if we really wanted to, right? You live in southern Utah and you know that land is moving really fast. However, Land Insights doesn't show it. Well,
Yes.
is it because there's some sort of disconnect of land is actually moving, but it's a lot more private sales? Or what exactly is it? Is it something within the algorithm that doesn't show, right? I'll give you another example on the land side of it. So I'm looking at land personally to buy in western Wisconsin because that's where we had some land there for hunting and recreational land, and I want to buy some more land in that area because I loved it. And so when you go and you look, the sell-through rate there is not good. But also too, you look on the properties there and they like land doesn't go up for sale because it's so wanted and valuable, right? And so so many of those transactions are off market. And Land Insights doesn't pull that data. So to answer your question, I 100% would still look at that area. I just need to have more, I would need to call, like if I'm not familiar with it,
Hmm.
I would just need to call the agents and say, hey, I'm looking at this piece of land I have, I want to sell it. Is land moving really quick there or how, like, what's the like feel on land right now? How's the market? Is it hot or cold or where are we at? And if it's a
So is
good
that the
land
best
agent,
way? Is
what's
that the
that?
best way to go through the agents to find the sentiment of certain markets? It sounds like that's a great option.
I personally do that
Okay,
because boots on the ground are so much better, right? Because
totally.
Jeff, if you were trying to buy a house in our neighborhood, you'd have no idea that more houses go off market than not.
Yeah.
And be like, holy cow, that house seems really expensive. It's a tear down and it's X number of dollars. And I'm like, yeah, that's an absolute steal for this area. And you're like, that seems insanely high. Like that thing's a piece of crap for what you're paying for it.
Yeah.
Right. But I'd be like, no, dude, you buy that, you do a little remodel and you'll 3x your money. Right. And so having that local knowledge is super, super beneficial and helpful. So oftentimes I'll start looking at like seeing if I can pull more people from like locally, right? That's why like I was telling like Kobe, I'm like, dude, like just hone in on your area. Hone in on your area, hone in on that northern Utah area because you know it and you can get the dirt on it and you can do that work and whatever it may be. So there certainly is like benefits of working in smaller areas. There are other people I know who all that they do, like they work remotely, but all that they do is work in like three or four counties, like in Alabama.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And all it's because they have realtor connections. They know the area very well. They've been there multiple times now to do different projects, and they've had a lot of success there, or whatever it may be, right? Those people know that area, and so they'll just stick to that area. Um, and it can be super fruitful for it, even if you're remote. You just have to know the pulse of the area, right? I also know the pulse of like around the Twin Cities, right? If you go into the western suburbs and you start moving north and west, that land goes for an absolute premium right now, right? And it's insanely expensive. And if you entitle it, it's insanely profitable because those people are moving out there. The hard part is getting people who own the larger chunks of land to agree to sell it, right?
Hmm.
So, and again, it's just like local knowledge is super, super important. So if you have local knowledge and you're like, yeah, like this land moves, awesome. Also to be aware of seasonality as well.
Okay.
So I live in Minnesota. It is extremely seasonal. Land moves a ton in the summer, a ton in the fall, and a ton in the spring, and is absolutely dead in the winter.
Okay.
Because no one wants to go bundle up, tromp through
Yeah.
3 feet of snow, not be able to see the ground and go buy something, right? So
Hmm.
I see Kobe laughing over there. It's true though. It's true, right? And so what happens is that land starts to, it sits. It just sits. It might be priced accurately. It just sits because no one wants to go out and look at it.
Okay.
So a few different like nuances there. If you're local and you know that land is moving, like more power to you. It's probably like a little bit, and like Land Insight shows crappy numbers, more
It's to
power
my
to you.
advantage. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah, it certainly can be, right? If you
Cool.
know those pockets, 100%. 100%.
Awesome.
Just
Thank
make
you.
sure you verify those and don't and ask multiple realtors in the area or agents in the area, brokers in the area, what their opinion on the area is, and then take that summary. Because if one says it's really hot and one says it's really cold, you're gonna be like, so one of you is BSing me trying to get my listing, and then the other one is telling the
Yeah.
truth. And or the other one is just lazy and doesn't want to do any work. And then the other one is actually true and it is a hot market, right? So like that's why I say, call multiple agents if you can as well.
Okay.
They'll give
Can
you
you
a better
also
view.
access that on like county websites to see how land is selling in certain areas? Or is that more just
Yes,
like for
you
property ownership?
can. Yes, you can. Every county is going to be different as to how you can find that, but yes, you can. As long as it's not a non-disclosure state, and even if it's a non-disclosure state, I believe, don't quote me on this, believe if it's non-disclosure, it'll still at least tell you that it's moved. Versus if you have like a regular full disclosure state, if you will, aka the opposite of non-disclosure, right? So they'll disclose it. You should be able to pull what everyone paid for it.
Okay.
Yep. What's sold and what's paid for. It just might be buried a little bit more.
Okay.
So property records can sometimes be a little bit challenging, and aggregating those property records sometimes can be challenging depending on the county website.
Okay.
Because
Awesome.
some
Thank
counties
you.
are up with tech and others are definitely not up with tech.
Okay.
It's the government, man. Some
Right.
counties are on top of it and some aren't. So it all just depends. But yeah, you can certainly do that. You could probably use AI to try and help you with that. That's what I would recommend.
Okay.
Um, and then try and figure out a way to pull all that data together, and you can get a better picture snapshot as well.
Excellent. Thank you. That was super helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good question, though. Definitely a good question. I think that a lot of people will skip over counties being they put that market research like in Land Insights or Land Portal. They take that too much, like as like the holy grail,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah,
So
I just didn't want to miss out on an opportunity if it was actually there. So I'm like, I'd love to do business if it's
yeah.
close rather than, across the country where I haven't been.
Sure. Yeah. There's something to walking a piece of land too, I will say. There's certainly something to walking on the land and being like, it's pretty cool. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Driving up to it and all right. like this. It's cool. So
I don't have the guts to do something that I can't put eyes on yet.
not yet. Not yet. Don't worry. You'll get there, Colby. You'll be yeah, and then you'll be like, "Oh my God, why haven't I done this sooner?" So many opportunities. However, if you have an excavating business, I understand because you also want to make sure you're doing your excavating business too. So,
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's one of those that I don't like. Even when we have developments, I look at the sheets that the civil engineers and send, and it's like I don't know how the other gentleman's name, the one that's civil engineers, Silvio,
Silvio. Hmm.
how they do things. But in our area, sometimes we'll have an engineering firm come and there'll be three different engineers that work on the same project, whether even just like as small as a municipality water tank, and there's discrepancies between all the different plans. And then you start looking and it's like one engineer did this, one engineer did this, one engineer did this, but they never communicated. So then they're going back and forth and canceling each other out. And so it's one of those that it's like being able to see some of these things that, I mean, we're all human, we do miss things that there we've found things to save clients money because we've simply been able to adjust, and instead of importing material we can use material that we find on site and use that.
Oh,
So
there you go.
it's just one of those things that, yeah, it's we all miss things and sometimes people get things wrong and that's okay.
100%. 100%. I mean,
So
I'm
like you said earlier, I think it was you that said it earlier, more eyes the better.
more eyes the better. More eyes the better on that stuff for sure. And it's one of those two, as I develop more and more relationships with other people in land, right? I now have more and more eyeballs that can take a look at it, right? And so that's always super, super helpful as well.
Right.
Just a little double check, a little double check. So cool. Awesome. I'm gonna wrap it up here pretty quick. I gotta go get my hairs cut. But thank you guys though for coming in. And Camila and Jeff, I don't know if you guys missed it. I'm rolling out, I'll just give you my quick little spiel here. I'm rolling out a cold calling list. And so if you guys are interested in that, let me know. And essentially it's parcels that I'm already like kind of pre-filtered out a lot of and interested in. And so if you're interested in calling and JVing and partnering, the more work you do, the more you earn. And so if you guys are interested in that, let me know. If cold calling is not your jam, no problem. All right. But I figured I'd just at least throw that out there. And if you guys are interested, awesome. And Silvio, I see you're interested. Sweet. Shoot me a message here. I'm gonna give you my email and shoot me a message. And let me make sure I wrote that right. Shoot me an email, Silvio, and I'll get you on and up and rolling on that. And then yeah, then we can work through whatever process you're at, however far you want to take it. And then I'm happy to help out wherever need be in the rung of getting a deal done. So
So is that mostly setting appointments, or is that what's involved with that?
yeah, so it's yes and no, right?
Okay.
So yes, I was like, yeah, of course. It's like, I've been on enough of these. I know what's coming. It depends. No. Yes and no. So if you just want to set appointments, awesome. Totally fine. Happy to like work the deal from there. If you want to set appointments and comp the property, but you're not sure about the comp, happy to meet you there. If you want to set appointments, comp the property, and then try and negotiate, happy to meet you there. If you want to set appointments, comp, negotiate, and now you have it under contract, but you don't know what to do for dispo, happy to help you there. If you don't
Sweet.
know what to do about funding, happy to help you in that next rung as well. So
Oh,
the
awesome.
idea is that and this came from another person within Owners Club, but I was like, this is ingenious because the more you do, the more you earn, right? And then eventually, you're able to do a full transaction as needed, if you will, right? So essentially I like it because it's like a good stepping hierarchy of like helping people get through the deals. So if the first deal is I'm gonna call and I think this is a comp, but I really don't know. I don't know how to negotiate this. I don't know what the next steps are. Happy to step in and help you out on that rung, right? If you're comfortable with your comps and you think you can get it right, but want a second set of eyes, happy to help you there, right? And the further and further along you go, the more and more like the idea is that the more and more percentage of the deal that you would earn, right? Of profits that you would earn.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah. Because I figure that's probably like a really good way of trying to help people step up on to the ladder and just eventually, right, you're going to get up on top of the ladder and then be up on the roof, right? And being able to do it on your own. So that's
Awesome.
always the
Yeah.
option. And also too, if you get everything done and you just need a capital partner, happy to help too.
Cool. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's my little mini spiel here for the day. But I kind of came up with that. I had a meeting on Wednesday with another gentleman, and then I was like, man, I really like that. And then kind of thought about it on Thursday. And then Thursday night, last night, I started like working on it a little bit. And I'm like, okay, work in progress, but I have lists pulled. So if you guys want to start calling, let me know and know that it's a work in progress too. So it's not perfectly ironed out by any means, but it's a work in progress. I have a list. You can start calling and I have a form to submit the deals and we can start working them right away. So
Cool. That's great.
yeah,
Do you
that's
have a script that you want us to follow?
I can certainly provide you with a script to follow for
Well,
sure.
I'm just wondering what your parameters are of like what have you found to be effective?
Yeah, absolutely. My goal is to put together like some Loom videos or like a video of that of like, hey, here's how to get most effective. I'll
Hmm.
have a little FAQs like sheet as well. And then, the biggest thing is really just being curious. That's probably my number one tip is just be curious, right?
Okay.
Pretend because if you look at it and like we'll take the sub to community and Pace, right? Pace Morby, for example, right? When he goes in, he would rather not know anything about the property because he just wants to be curious. Hey, tell me about this property. It's 30 acres. It looks pretty sweet. How long have you owned it? What was your plan for it? What are you doing on it? Have you been there recently? Have you not? Right? Like, you can open up so many different options and avenues for it. And so I'll lay out a framework too of like certain things or certain ways that you can kind of start talking to those owners. But normally it's story, timeline, motivation, and price. Those are the big things. If you can get those pieces out, that like
Hmm.
tremendously helps. And story is just being curious. Motivation, that will come out when you start being curious and ask them about the story. Timeline, then sometimes that's a more direct question, and price tends to be a more direct question as well. But if you can get that kind of items up and like know those items and work from that framework, you'll get most of your answers, and those landowners will start yapping you to sleep, where you're like, okay, buddy, that was a little much. I can't spend an hour with everyone who's
Yeah.
looking at selling their land, which I certainly have spent over an hour
Oh,
talking
I'm
to people
sure.
before. But yeah, you just never know. You never know what the rapport is. And, I still follow up with a few people who, 6 months ago, they said, oh, yeah, no, like, you seem like a nice guy and I'll probably sell it eventually, but not right now. I'm like, okay, no problem. Just let me know. And you send a few follow-up texts here and there. And before you know it, I'm sure, I'm meeting with a gentleman here for a house and his property and stuff like that. So he does have a house on it. So I'm not totally agnostic against houses, but in terms of like ideally raw land, and so he has a whole bunch of raw land where I can actually split off that house and then split off the land and sell them separately. So, but yeah, side tangent, but that's kind of what you want to look at is if you can, I'll help you give like framework behind phone calls to try and help with that. In terms of also too, like helping yourself with phone calls, record yourself. It's the most cringeworthy thing to rewatch your phone calls. However, it will speed up your learning curve tremendously because you'll go, why did I say that? That was like the worst question to ask after that, right? And you'll just note it and you'll be like, okay, what could have I said instead that would be way better? Okay, great. Now, next time you call and that same, you're kind of leading in that same direction. Now you can give the better question and see what happens with that too, right? Oh, wow. They really opened up a lot more after that versus, yeah, they kind of got a little agitated last time I said that first question and that didn't really go so well. So Colby's smiling because I know he's had a few of those phone calls. So it's Camilla. Camilla's
Unfortunately,
laughing over there as well. So I
unfortunately.
know that's happened. But but yeah, that would be kind of my recommendation. I'm happy to give like framework around it as well. So you guys can kind of get a better idea of ways to approach landowners. They are a little bit different. Normally, once you get them on the phone and once you break through the ice, they're normally very, very talkative and very much more down to earth, if you will. Um, but that's just, I guess, been my experience in talking with them because they tend to be a little bit, I guess, people who own land tend to be a little bit more chill than people in the city, and they tend to be more out in the boonies, and they have nothing better to do than talk to you while they're sitting on their tractor plowing their fields. So,
Awesome.
which may or
Life is
may
simpler in
not
the
have.
country, and when you have land, life is simpler versus city life.
Certainly can be. Certainly can be. A lot of those farmers that I know have not a care in the world, man.
Nope.
They work their tails off. Let me just put it out there. They work their tails off. They're up at 3, 4 a.m. in the morning. They don't stop until 8, 9 p.m. at night and sometimes later. So they work their tails off. But yeah, they will take hours to talk to you on the phone in a tractor while they're harvesting or plowing fields or whatever. In their air-conditioned John Deere International or New Holland tractor or whatever. Name your tractor brand, but yeah. So awesome. Well,
Okay.
cool. I see Camilla, I see that you said sign me up too. Just shoot me an email. That sound good? And then I'll plug you guys into it and rock and roll. Same with you, Silvio. I know you said that for sure. And Jeff, you're interested, Colby, you're interested, just let me know. No pressure. Just trying to help you guys wherever you guys fit in the rung and however I can help you guys out.
That's great. Thank
Well,
you.
appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Yeah. One more thing before we leave. Make sure you smile. Gotta get the screenshot. So everyone smile. Love it. Got it. Hopefully you guys
Awesome.
didn't blink.
Bye, guys.
Yeah. All right. See you guys. Have a good weekend. I will see you guys Monday.
Sounds good.
Will do.
Thank you.
All right. See ya.